going to bring up our Executive Director of the Economic Development Corporation again. He told me that just as nice as he is, he can be a real tiger when it comes to negotiating, right, Stephen? Sometimes. So, again, please join me in welcoming Stephen Valdez up again.
So I'm going to first introduce the two guests that we have here today. If I had an opportunity, I would love to have been able to show the Super Bowl commercial that we all probably got to see of the gentleman to my left. Ezequiel Reyna is a distinguished attorney with 43 years of expertise in personal injury law. He's the seventh child of migrant parents, and he grew up right here in Weslaco. Mr. Reyna is a successful entrepreneur owning several businesses, including Reyna's Barbecue and Concina, right across the street. Tierra Golf Course, we've all played that course a few times. Tony's Grill, and Reyna Development and Construction. He participates in charitable and economic development boards, currently serving as director of Hidalgo County Regional Mobility Authority Board. He also co-founded the Reyna Family Foundation, dedicated to supporting initiatives that advocate for the underserved. He, after receiving his Bachelor's of Science from Texas Pan American University, Mr. Reyna attended a doctorate of jurisprudence from the University of Houston. Reyna is a member of the National Trial Lawyers, Top 10 Trucking Trial Lawyers Association, and the National Trial Lawyers Top 100. He has a very, very busy schedule, as you might know, but he's very dedicated to his family. He and his wife are proud parents of 3 loving and accomplished kids and 2 grandkids. So please help me welcome Ezequiel Zeke Reyna. Also, you might have seen featured on national television with the, what is her name again? Kelly Ripa, I think that's a joke. But he's been featured there on that particular show a few times. Joel Garcia is a pit master and owner of Teddy's Barbecue. Joel grew up here in Weslaco also, and after graduating Texas A&M College Station in 2012, he moved to Austin where he began his internship. While working at the state capitol, he discovered his love for Texas-style barbecue. I'm still trying to make the connection between the Capitol and barbecue, but I'm sure you'll help us understand that. In his span of about 2 years, Joel honed his skill for making barbecue at some of the most acclaimed barbecue places like Cafe Mueller, Friedman's Bar, Terry Black's Barbecue, and here in Farr, Smokin' Oaks Barbecue. All 4 of those places were named top 25 and 50 top barbecue joints in the state of Texas by Texas Monthly. And it's just coincidentally that each time that those places were named, he was working for those companies as well. So in July 2019, he and his partner Jesse Garcia opened what is now called Teddy's Barbecue. And recently in 2020, the Texas Monthly finally, on his own brand, named him the top 25 joints in the state of Texas. And so we're honored to have with us also Joel Garcia. Please welcome him with a round of applause. So since we're on a panelist of 2, I'm going to take my place at the table. And even though I'm at your table, please address your thoughts to the audience and we'll have this conversation. It's great that I've known these gentlemen for almost a lifetime. And so it's a conversation we hope that we can share with you some of our thoughts. So. Check 1, 2. Okay,
check.
Very good.
Testing, yeah.
Got it? Okay, so when we thought about the topic today, we wanted to understand what the title says, generational differences. And I'm not calling Mr. Reyna out, but he and I are a little older than the gentleman off to our side. So we're going to hopefully understand that by the time you've heard this conversation, that you would understand that there are certain things that transcend time and generational gaps, and hopefully we'll be able to understand that today. So I'm going to start. We got a chance to hear a little bit from your bio, but if you can share with us a little bit of your history, and I'll start with you, and what inspired you to become a business owner?
Well, first and foremost, I want to thank all of you for being here, and thank you, Mr. Valdez, for hosting us. And also want to commend each and every one of you for partaking in the business industry of our South Texas, state of Texas, and our nation, because it is, as we all know, the small businesses that are the backbones of our country. And it's not easy to own a business, so we'll get into that a little bit further in this conversation. But I just wanted to take the time to recognize each and every one of you and commend you for your efforts and the courage, because it does take a lot of courage and dedication, sacrifice. We'll be talking about that for the next hour. So my hat's off to you on behalf of myself and my family. I am the seventh child of 8. And we were migrants traveling all over the country. Was actually born in Arkansas while we were picking cotton. And we were basically raised here right next to the railroad tracks, which used to be the McManus packing shed, Blue Goose, Staffers. It was a very enriching history that we have, because it was very difficult. And it trained us to be what we are today. And as business owners, or hopefully soon to be business owners, you will take every experience that you have in your formative years to be able to be successful. Because as a business owner, that's what it's going to take. So as a young child, as we traveled throughout the country, in the back of a truck, drinking water from a canal, living in migrant camps. And even here at home, we didn't have the proper sewer, so we basically had to go to our outhouse until I was about 13, so most of my siblings had already graduated from high school. Saying all that, this is in the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. All 12 of us, all 8 of us graduated from high school, and all 8 of us graduated from university. 4 bachelors, 2 masters, and 2 lawyers. So that's the history that we'll be talking about. And I do thank my parents and my siblings that were older than me for taking a brunt of the load that we had to carry all of our lives. So again, on behalf of myself and my family, I want to thank you for being here.
Joel, tell us a little bit about your background, your upbringing as well, and your history, where you're at today.
So I grew up here in Weslaco as well. Come from migrant parents too. We grew up in the projects just right here on Texas, what they call El Campito. We were very poor growing up and stuff. And my parents traveled back and forth up north. I actually didn't learn English until I was in 3rd grade, and got through school. Didn't let that hold me back, and went and graduated from high school. Was the first in my family to graduate high school. First generation college student. First in my family to graduate college as well. And it's been an experience for sure. But I don't take any of it for granted.
Thank you, Joel. So Zeke, you mentioned. We mentioned as part of your biography 4 different companies. So bring us up to date as to where you're at now with the 4 companies that you run. And then, Joel, I'll ask you the same thing about the different brands of restaurants that you're starting up. So bring us up to date. Where are we today with your businesses?
Well, like any small business, it's very difficult to have a startup business, especially in the practice of law when your background is somewhat limited for the actual work that you're going to be serving your clients. And we went through the process that for the first 5-10 years of practicing law. And it was basically a learning process. But what I didn't do is I didn't stop because it was difficult. And that's a trait that's why I said that it was very enriching life, because as a young individual, you learn that you don't have a choice. And basically, when you're at small businesses, you have to make decisions because you don't have a choice. So we started off in the practice. Fortunately for me, I chose something that was really very rewarding, because as a young child, I wanted to help people. And suffice it to say that we have helped hundreds of thousands of people throughout the Valley and South Texas and our nation. So we started very, very small, just really small. My first phone was a red phone because it was a used phone. Where we started then and where the practice is today, which is a multi-million-dollar business throughout the country, we've expanded. But it wasn't always easy. There was times when I was on the 51st floor of the Chevron building in Houston, and there was 50 lawyers going against my clients, against me, and none of them looked like me. And it was very intimidating, so I had two choices, either to quit or to forge ahead. So we forged ahead and we made it happen, but it wasn't easy. And it was the same thing with our development and construction company, in the sense that when we first started, and we started basically in the Mid-Valley in Weslaco, which was a lot slower 40 years ago than what it is today. So we purchased some properties, and we were very blessed in doing that. We developed Tierra Santa, and it was very slow. The development site was very, very slow. We had 400 lots back in 1997, which is kind of a little bit out there. And you have to understand, we sold half of those lots in the last 3 or 4 years. So it was quite a difficult task. But looking at it today, Reyna Development and Construction, that's managed by our son Dominic, we have like 5 or 6 subdivisions on the ground already being developed and all sold. We have like 5 or 6 more, not only here in Weslaco, but McAllen, Far, and Harlingen, and we're going to be going to Brownsville. So there's a big difference from when we first started to where we are today. And the same thing with Reyna's Barbecue. We started with one right here. We ventured into Harlingen, right in front of Home Depot, which is 40 acres that we developed there in Harlingen. And then, of course, we're going to go into McAllen, then Brownsville, and then we're going to move upstate. So you can see the birth of an idea, then taking the action and going through the process. We have some other businesses also. They're more recent, and they're all doing well. So we thank God that we have, from my dad owning a little truck in 1960 to where we are today, it is a big difference, Mr. Valdez. Thank you.
So Joel, tell us about, thank you. Tell us about where you're at now. You've got Teddy's in Weslaco. Tell us about the business in McAllen, and then what you're planning to start in a second location in Weslaco as well.
Yeah, so, we started in 2017, right downtown at Alfresco, Weslaco. Teddy's Barbecue started actually in our backyard. You know, we didn't go from an idea to a restaurant. You know, we started the restaurant in 2019 here in Weslaco. 6 months later, had to shut down because of the pandemic, shift our whole model around. And from there, we kind of scaled down a little bit, and we grew our space, basically. We didn't grow our team too much. It was still just me, my brother, my mom, and a few other people that worked with us. But from there, we had a couple ideas that came up through the pandemic that kept us afloat. And from there, our concept in McAllen was born, which is named after my daughter. It's called Jolene's. It's a southern style kitchen. We sell like fried chicken and burgers and that kind of stuff. And then from there, we also purchased a couple mobile trucks. One of them that is now stationary in Harlingen at the Moon Rock, and the other one that we take around to events like Alfresco and Onion Festival and stuff like that, just around the valley. We have another concept that we're working on opening downtown. It is a pizza place. It should be opening probably within the next 3 months if everything stays on schedule. But yeah, from one restaurant to 3 concepts and 2 mobile trucks in the last 5 years, we've had a lot of growth, and we've been doing pretty good.
Thank you, Joel. So one of the things that we take pride in as far as the EDC in Weslaco is we host the downtown street festival we call Al Fresco. And our staff puts that together. Michelle runs it for us. So wave, Michelle, thank you for your help and support. And so the idea behind Al Fresco is to take food truck concepts, people that bring their tent, and hopefully at some point turn them into a brick and mortar. And so he was a prospect that was doing Al Fresco in the early days, and look at him now. So we're excited that that concept works, and it's here happening for us live today. So thanks to Al Fresco EDC, I'm thanking ourselves, and thank you for believing in us, Joel, as well. So my next question is about culture, and so we all can use that word interchangeably, culture. Culture is going to mean one thing to Zeke, and it's going to mean something a little bit different to Joel. So Zeke, for your question, you mentioned you grew up in the 60s and 70s. You had a farm worker, a migrant farm worker culture, and you grew up in your industry as a Hispanic. So tell us how that shaped your decisions in starting a business and how that still continues to translate in your life now.
If you use the term culture, it encompasses almost every facet of life. So, in the general sense, people can be prejudiced because of race, religion, economics, and it goes on and on and on. Being raised in the 50s and the 60s was quite difficult for us as minorities. So it was an incredible inherent culture bias. We're very blessed here in the Valley, incredibly blessed, especially now. It's God's country, to be honest with you. I've had the good fortune as a young kid to travel all over the country, and it was quite difficult, but as such as will be the decisions that you make in your business or in life, we have a choice again, either to use it as a crutch and stop, use it as an excuse as to why not to go forward. Or you can actually use it as you determine to benefit your lot in life. And you will be so impressed that those experiences that were difficult at that time become the jewels that you will have in your back pocket to use at your disposal. So it was very difficult. I was born in Blytheville, Arkansas, right next to the river, along with my sister Cynthia, who's back there, with my beautiful wife Livia. And we lived in a little shack, all 11 of us. So this culture that we have in this country is not new to the world. It's all over. But it's really a beautiful thing to be diverse and be able to speak to anyone with an open and loving heart that you will need to serve your customers, your clients. Because as the moderator said before, it's not about the product. It's not about the message. It's how you deliver it that makes a very distinct difference in whether you will succeed or not. I've been asked time and time again, what did you say? And I tell them what I said, and I said, I just said the same thing. So how you deliver that plate of food, how you deliver that injection, how you have your bedside manners, how you determine all this is what will make you as a person successful and your business thereof. So as a culture, we know for a fact that it is difficult because somebody else wants to take your place now and forever. So how you manage that decision on a daily basis, because it never goes away. And that's why some of us don't sleep at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. It doesn't go away. So it was really difficult to deal with, but you're going to have to do it yourselves in all businesses, every facet of your life. Just understand that that's forthcoming, engage it. Engage the people that I said, that would told me, Zeke, you would be lovely, I have a job for you, you can clean my bathrooms. So you take that kind of statement and either you go down with it or you make yourself a better person and you grow with it. So it's out there, it was out there, it was probably out there a lot worse because that's just the way our nation was built. And we moved forward and we've done a lot of progress. And you and each one of us has to be a part of that new age forthcoming so that the people coming after us can have a better opportunity.
Thank you, Zeke. Joel, same question, but in a different way. So your culture is surrounded by a social media culture. You can serve 99 plates, perfectly plated, perfectly taste-worthy, and then you find that one social media critical-minded person that can sway in a completely different direction. How do you deal with that as a business leader?
I mean, I think, so just to go back to what you're saying, I guess in social media nowadays, negativity is like so loud. You know, it's positivity is there's not enough of it out there. So I guess the way that we deal with it in our business and the way that we dealt with it back then was just to be real. I mean, it was just to be personable, to show people that this is a dream of ours. This is something that we want to accomplish, and this is something that we hope our kids will take over in the future. So, you know, when we were launching our business, learning the ins and outs of social media was always hard, you know. But we use it to our advantage. You know, we would post, hey, we're going to be at this place and we're going to sell this, and here's what we're, you know, doing to prepare for it. And, you know, post a story of us cooking the food, post a story of us slicing out there, the line that we had, those kind of things that people can appreciate and relate to. There's enough negativity out there, and I don't give it any attention. Just because I hate reviews, I hate Yelp, anything that has to do with Google or anything like that. I just, you know, my sister tells me all the time, like, you know, there was 100 positives to that one negative, so don't even sweat it, you know. And I try not to, but yeah, I mean, social media is just, there's so much negative stuff out there, Steve. It's just, I mean, in this world, the only thing you can do is just keep moving forward, man. I mean, the stuff is going to be out there, but what you do in your life and in your business, people see that. So,
Thank you, Joel. So Zeke, you've had to pivot and transition from a time when we, growing up, didn't have to face the kind of consequences that Joel does in social media. But how have you been able to pivot within your culture and the 4 business that you run? And now you are forced to embrace it and forced to make it a part of your success. So how has that transition occurred in your professional life with regards to today's social media?
So I asked Elizabeth back there that works for us and says, what does that mean? And she said, don't worry about it. Just tell them that you're on all the platforms.
Yeah, there you go. Well, thank you. That's a great answer.
You know, it's just a different era. Today you can push a button and you can reach 50, 100,000 people. So it was quite difficult for me when I first started because, you know, coming from the background that I was raised with, we knew some people, but we didn't have, you know, the business acumen and background that is required. So what I had to do is because I wanted to be successful, and then that was a driving force to help people. My beautiful wife and I went to almost every wedding, every quinceañera, every pachanga, and I was out putting out my cards, and that was the way that we reached out to people. It was a never stop proposition that endured and still endures to this time. I just do something different. And the difference is not only in how many people you reach, but the fortunate thing is that when you talk to your customers and you go one-on-one, you need to be able to make that personal connection, that business connection. The most important thing in my practice and in your business is when that customer leaves your business, that customer, that client, that patient needs to have, when he's leaving, the confidence that what you are doing or will do for him is absolutely the best thing for him or her. Make no bones about it, because you have competition. Our business is based on competition. And if you want to get into a business, you better be very, very good at it. Because the next person next to you is thriving just as much as you. So you have to have that personal connection. And I think that's one of the things that really was very endearing to my practice, is that I was out there day and night, literally 12 hours a day, 14 hours a day, 6 days a week, 7 days a week. Because you have to sacrifice that. So on the social media stuff, I'm very sorry I can't talk too much about that, because you've heard the term Johnny come late. Well, Zeke came late, very late, okay? but I had enough sense to hire people to do that for us, so I'm not really good at that, so forgive me. What I do tell you is, when they do knock on your door, respond to them. Each and every request. Do not go to sleep without you not responding to whatever request your customers or your clients will have.
Thank you, Zeke. So he reminded me of thank you.
Elizabeth is a keeper now.
So what you reminded me of when we would high school, we all played high school sports, or a lot of us did, and when we were tired and wanting to go home, and the coach would say to us, just run faster than the guy behind you. And so that reminded me of what you said earlier. So in business, we've probably all heard the term, it takes money to make money. And clearly you've heard from these two gentlemen, they really didn't have a whole lot. The one thing that we all have in common together is we all grew up migrants. And so the automatic insinuation as a migrant is that you don't have a whole lot, that you have to leave your home to find work in the north. And so I'll ask you first, Joel, when they say to you that it takes money to make money, tell me if that's a true statement in your upbringing, in your career.
I don't think that's necessarily true, and I'll tell you why. I mean, there's a whole lot of things that don't take money. You know, there's for us specifically, I think what we did in the short time that we did it was we were resourceful. You know, we reached out to our network, friends, anything that we had to do to get where we wanted to get. We did it. You know, even if it was asking to borrow something as small as an ice chest that we couldn't afford at the time when we started. Just little things like that, reaching out to people that know more than you, that have been in this field longer than you. You know, I sent a lot of direct messages to pitmasters that were doing pop-ups at the time, that were getting started just like I was and asking them, you know, how did you do it? How did you get through this health code or whatever, you know, that kind of stuff. So it doesn't necessarily take money. It takes passion. It takes hard work. It takes you having an idea and you getting over that fear of going to execute that idea and not being afraid to fail. Because I mean, that's just out of the question. You know, you're going to fail eventually in life. And if you can't get over that fear, you're never going to get anywhere. So it's just like, it doesn't take money to make money, but it does take commitment to your idea.
Same question. Well, let me rephrase that question and maybe take a different direction.
Okay.
And we'll get into this also because we're also going to talk about the next generation from here when these two gentlemen retire. But you have kids that grew. Well, I'm thinking about it.
Well, okay. I still have to work, right, Livia?
Well, it's at some point. That's probably a little closer for us than it is for Joel. But you were able to create an environment for your children because of the resources and because of the hard work that you did. So how does it take money to make money apply to your situation and the gift that you're giving your children and the legacy that you're leaving behind for your children as well?
Let me try to answer those questions as best as I can and with all expediency. Nothing is absolute in life, right? It takes money to make money, maybe fitting under certain circumstances. Only under certain circumstances. It may be true that if you want to do a $20 million project, you got to have $4 or $5 million. But if you're talking about a startup business, then if you don't have the funds to actually at least have some decent chance financially, because sometimes it'll take a year, 2 years, 3 years just to get your business up, then you have to actually substitute it. You have to have the dedication, the commitment, and the grit that it's going to take, because it's going to be you, your spouse, your children, your parents. It's going to take sacrifice. It's going to take sacrifice. So if you take my dad back in the 40s and the 50s when he was a trucker and went all the way to Memphis and did it time and time again, well, he drove 48 hours without sleeping. So that's a sacrifice. Not everybody wants to do that or be able to do that, and that's understandable. My mama lived without my dad because he was out and about roaming the country working. That's a sacrifice. Now, you have to do that. You have to do that if you don't have the funds. In football, if a player doesn't have all the capabilities and the abilities, then he's going to have to be able to adapt and make something that's better than the other person on defense or offense. And it's the same thing with us here. We have to adapt. We have to be able to engage the change that is required of us to give our business a chance. And then furthermore, you're going to be able to have to do that and keep changing until the finances do not belong and do not actually become a concern at that time. So you have to be able to supplement that which you don't have to be able to maintain and manage, not only at the beginning, but throughout, because it happens to everybody. Montgomery Ward back in the 60s was the biggest one, Sears. And where's Montgomery Ward today? So you have to adapt.
And I struggle for not pointing out that, so I say we a lot because we are older, so it's the same question for us older guys. So you talked about your skills that help you start your businesses as a young man. How have you been able to perfect those same skills to help you continue to be successful today?
I think one of the things that I've learned in life is I sometimes wonder why the whole world, especially our nation, loves sports. And I come to the conclusion that we all understand in each and every sport where the goal is and what the rules are in each game. And really unfortunately, it doesn't exist like that in private business and small businesses. There is no template as to what rules are and to apply them. So what I've seen and experienced in some of my clients and what I've seen in the business community is some business owners, some people feel very uncomfortable. And we need to understand that that's the process of owning a business. And what we have to learn is to feel comfortable being uncomfortable because we don't know. And it takes so much to get there. And you say, well, this is not right. And unfortunately, it may be true, but it's not going to go away. That uncomfortableness is a constant thing. So it's a different way of life. So if you want to get into a business and believe that it's going to make your life easier, and if it's successful, that may be true only on the financial side, but not on the emotional, mental stress side, because it's a constant burden every day. So my whole point is engage being uncomfortable. If in fact you're going to want to have a successful and prosperous business, because it's never going to go away, and just enjoy it with us and go to work with a smile. So that's why it's really important that you're going to start a business or you're in a business, you better love it. You better love it, because if not, it's going to take your soul away, and it may be all for naught. Thank you.
Thanks, Zeke. So you mentioned Joel that you saw the sacrifices that your parents made to put food on the table. You mentioned the clothes on your back, and that's very important for all of us to realize the involvement that our parents have in our lives and helping us be successful. But how does that translate over to your children? Because really, I don't know that there's any guarantee that your business is going to be successful when you're prepared to hand this business over to your children. So how do you translate? How do those skills transcend to your own children, and what you learned from your parents, and how do you make sure you adopt those same lessons with your kids?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really difficult as a parent and as a business owner. I don't know how those skills translate, but I do know that my kids know that if I'm not at home, I'm at Teddy's barbecue. If I'm not at home, I am checking on the restaurants. I'm driving the food truck somewhere. They know that I'm out there working hard. Their dad's not messing around. They know that everything that I do is for them. My son loves doing community service events, and that's something that I hope will pass on to him. I don't know how the skills will translate, because obviously I'm sacrificing a lot so that he could have a better life and that he could, have a business to eventually take over. But I think by him seeing me, my mom, my dad, my brother, my wife, everybody in our family working hard towards one common goal, and that's to make our businesses successful, I think that's going to show them that this means a lot to us and that we sacrifice a lot throughout the years so that eventually that they can take it over. I ask them now, hey, are you ready to take over Teddy's barbecue? He's like, yeah, I am the owner. What are you talking about?
He's 3 years old.
So
5. I'm sorry, 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, I know that he sees it, and I know that it's hard on him sometimes, But I hope that those skills of hard work and making sacrifices and putting passion and community first, all those things pass on to him.
Thank you, Joel. So same question, Zeke. So you have 3 children in their own right that are very successful, but is it a guarantee that the work that you did, is it a guarantee that your kids are going to be successful because you made those sacrifices?
Well, obviously not. There's no guarantee, and sometimes more likely than not, it doesn't happen for whatever the reasons may be. We're just very blessed because Livia's little kids, and I'm a little different than Joel because Livia's little kids are now 40 years old. So it's a little different for us because they have been involved in our businesses. And we didn't try to push them into anything. None of them are lawyers. There may be an obvious reason for them not being lawyers. But I think what is most important, at least in our household, from that perspective, was we just wanted them to be happy, whatever that meant, whatever their goal or their desire and their way of life that they chose or decide to choose now is we just wanted them to be happy. But what was important for me is 2 things. It's not what my dad and my mom told us or lectured us. It's what they did for us. And I mentioned earlier that we saw my dad work 24, 48, 72 hours without sleeping. I saw my mom out in the fields with her 8 children, getting up at 4 in the morning, going to sleep at midnight every day, every day, every day. So obviously we lectured our kids, but I think what was most important for them is what they also experienced in Livia and I, and our work ethics, and more importantly, the ethics that we taught them and raised them on how to be proper and good citizens first and foremost, because it is our God, our family, and then our jobs, in that order, and it always will be in that order. So if you get to meet any of our kids, you probably will never know who they are or where they come from, because that's the way they were raised and trained, mostly by their beautiful mama. Saying all that, we're blessed because they did take the leap, and they do get up early in the morning. We have one of them that sleeps like 4 or 5 hours and calls us at 6 in the morning, like, really? At 6 in the morning? Or they'll call us at 9 o'clock at night. So they've done extremely well. And we're, because when you're in business, and like myself, you have this DNA of the poor man's mentality, and you're so scared of it that you never want to go back to it. So it becomes a huge driving force to continue the efforts day and night. And my kids weren't raised that way from that perspective, but they were raised from just be careful and make sure that you see that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And they've done extremely well, so we're very, very thankful for that.
Thank you, Zeke. So we've got, thank you. So we've got about 10 minutes left, and so we wanted to make sure we had some time for question and answers. So, but before we do that, I want to ask you guys to offer advice that you have for young entrepreneurs, offer advice that you think made a difference in your life. I know you've shared a lot of jewels so far, but specifically, if you could talk to the audience, what is your advice? And then, of course, let's try to leave some time for some question and answers. You go first, Joel.
So my advice, and I took this advice from another pitmaster who opened his own barbecue restaurant in San Antonio, was basically just to start small. I mean, if you see Teddy's Barbecue today, it was not what it was in 2019 when we took that building over. We started off with a 250-gallon propane smoker. It was tiny, fit maybe 6 briskets. Our pit room now is worth over probably $100,000. We have a big patio, we have a bar, we have a stage for music. Like I mentioned, we have 2 food trucks. So, all that didn't come from the start. We didn't have the money to do all that from the beginning. So just start small, start with an idea, take it from there, and you'll grow that as it go.
Thank you. It's okay. Thank you. I think the most important thing is, as a person, as a human being, don't allow anyone to box you in, and as to who you are, as to who you want to be, and as to what you will do in life. That's rule number one. You have to know yourself and understand who you are and what you want to do in life. Because your competitors or just the naysayers of the world, and there's plenty of them out there, will put you in a little box. And it's not easy. It wasn't easy. Don't even think that it's easy now. It's not, because they will continue to put you in a little box. And you see it at all levels of our society. So you have a dream, dedicate yourself to that proposition, and go. And do not stop. A lot of excuses as to why you will and can't stop. Only one reason as to why you will succeed in life, in your businesses, is because you dedicate your whole self to that one proposition. And it will cost you. And understand going in that it's going to cost you so that you can be okay with it. You're going to be fine with it. So my parting words to you is expand your conscience and go for the gold. Do not stop. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise. Be kind to them. Shake their hand, love them, and move on. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So, just real quick, since the family component is so important, I'd like them to invite their families to stand and be recognized. So, Joel, if your lovely wife could stand. Thank you. If your family can stand, and your staff at the back table, family and staff, be recognized. Thank you. So do we have any questions? There's a mic. Brian has a mic over there. We'd love to be able to answer your questions if you have any.
Don't be shy.
I see you guys did a great job, I guess, in giving them the right advice. Oh, there's one at the back. One at the back.
Do you want me to stand up? Or, what do you think was your biggest setback that you ever had in life, and how did you overcome that in business?
You go first.
I would say there's been a lot of times where, I hate to admit it, but your bank account goes dry. Like, that's one of the biggest setbacks that I think I've had. I hated to think about the fact that we might have to close, or we weren't going to make these bills, or we weren't going to be able to pay employees, or that kind of stuff. And that's just one of the things that I've gone through a couple times in these last 5 years, believe it or not. It wasn't until last year that we saw kind of some potential growth in our business. And it's a lot of times that I was the last one to get paid. So that's just been one of the setbacks that I think has been the toughest for me in business.
I think everybody wants to know what happened to your finger. Is that a setback?
I burned myself, last week.
That's a setback. Zeke?
I think overall, if there's a setback, it's going to be a transactional. It's a transaction that happens. And if you take it as such, you understand that you can overcome that. But you asked for one, we've had a lot of setbacks, okay? I want to make it very clear that when I say it wasn't easy, that we've had an incredible amount of setbacks, all kinds of things that you can think of, from the inception financial, even through the process, developing something that we shouldn't have developed, and it cost us millions of dollars. So it's going to be there. Things that you think that you should have done, and you see somebody else do it, but we take all of that in stride. And we've come to the conclusion and trained our children and our staff that as long as the solution is within our hands, and you don't have somebody else that's going to dictate your next response to it or your next action, and it's in your hands, in your mind, in your soul, then we'll be okay. Because we will have enough understanding and enough grit to go forward in realizing that we do have the answer to whatever it may be. It doesn't matter what you do, who you are. Just understand that the solution is within yourself, and you can go forward with it.
Thank you. Any other questions right here?
At what moment did you realize, okay, we need to expand, we need to franchise, and what was your motive to go ahead and do that?
Joel, you want to do that one first? You're the youngest franchisee, or actually not franchisee, but business owner.
For us, it was, barbecue is the same thing every single day. You know, you go in, you burn meat, and you serve it to people. So that just gets boring over time. Not really boring, but you know, my brother is a trained chef, so we had all these concepts in mind, and we had enough following and enough interest. The right place kind of fell into our lap to where we could go into the market in McAllen, and that's where we decided. You know, I think it's time for us to go that way. There was enough customers that were coming from McAllen to Weslaco, so we decided to open that in 2023 or 2022. Sorry, and from there, you know, we were like, there's a lot of customers that come from Harlingen. Why don't we open a truck out there? So, just basically doing our research of what is available in the different areas and communities, and seeing where our customer base comes from. We use a POS system that kind of tracks, I don't want to say tracks people because that's kind of weird, right? But it tracks where our customers are coming from and where they're ordering from based on their zip code and that kind of stuff. So, so that's kind of how we decided, you know, where we were going to go and to what different markets we were going to expand to.
I think for us, real quick, expansion is something that's very personal. Obviously, some people may just want a nice business and make a nice living and be able to raise your family, and you're fine with it. That's a difficult question for me because I've been looking at the stars since I was a little kid. So when I had enough money to be able to understand that we could do something else, but we've been blessed, so we've kept expanding and still expanding. I've had law offices in San Antonio, Houston, and we're still growing, and we're still going back to Houston again. So I think it's something that's very personal as to how much you want in life, or how much do you want to do. I think he didn't ask the question about retirement. Did you want to ask it now?
Well, we do have one more question.
Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Here we go. Good morning. My name is Fred Uribe, and I am from Harlingen, and I have a small business, Don Goyito Restaurant. And when Marsha mentioned pork chop, girl, you had me at pork chop. I'm hungry. And then Joel mentioned brisket. Oh man, you had me. I'm getting weak. I'm hungry. One of the things that I wanted to ask, I know that Mr. Esparza, he mentioned grants. And I've been doing a little bit of research, and I found out that there's a Mainstream America grant, VMO grants, and Hello Alice grants, which I have applied, and I have gotten some free money for my restaurant. My question is, have you guys applied for any grants? And have you received any funds?
Being that I started my business, straight out of college, I didn't have the best credit. So I applied for several grants, and some of them were, you did have to have some stuff in place and in order, and I didn't qualify for any of that. I've never qualified for SBA funding because of that. But I did get actually a grant from the EDC during COVID. So yes, I have gotten grants before, but specifically the ones that you mentioned, no. For our restaurant, I just never tried.
As for us, no, we've never asked for any grants from anyone. We did receive some ERC funds, and the reason for that was because during COVID, we paid all of our employees across the board, even if our businesses were closed. And then ERC came in later and somebody said, hey, you can apply for this. Oh, really? Yeah. So that's how we found out. But we've never asked for initial grants to start up or during the process.
Thank you all so much. Let's give these guys a round of applause.
Thank you, gentlemen. That was another great panel. So we have one more panel coming up for you, but we have that starting in about 10 or 12 minutes. So feel free to stretch your legs and visit the vendors. Thank you.